Hi everyone, welcome into this week's My Weekly CBS Fix. As always, I hope you had a wonderful week. This week's video is dedicated to my dear daughter Fegi. Mazel tov to you on your bas mitzvah, which was today. Really proud of you. Can't believe it's been 12 years. Hashem should help you go from one simcha to the next. In this week's parasha, we have a double parasha, Achray Mos and Kedoshim. And in Kedoshim, the Torah tells us one of the most famous mitzvahs, V'ahavta l'recha kamocha, love your friend as you love yourself. I know you might be thinking, I got this mitzvah. This one I know already. I don't really need to listen. Now that's true. You maybe not need to listen. But I'd like to share with you 2 points about this particular mitzvah. The one is based off a story that actually happened with me, or overheard a woman telling her friend that she's not going to tell her son that he's obligated to love her. The Torah says you should honor your father and mother. So she's just going to make sure that her son honors her, but not to love her per se. So I went over to her afterwards and I told her she's actually making a fundamental mistake. She said, why? I said, because your son is obligated to love you. She goes, why? It doesn't say the son is obligated to love their mother. I said, it doesn't say that, but it does say, V'ahavta l'recha kamocha. Every Jew has a command to love their fellow friend or their other Jewish relative just like themselves. And you are the child's mother. Your job is to teach your child that they have to love. The easiest person for a child to love is their own mother and father. And if you're not going to tell your child to love you, how do you expect that child to love his wife? How do you expect that child to love his friend down the block? You have to start inculcating into your child this idea that he has an obligation to love his fellow Jews, and certainly his parents. And as Hashem gave us the parents as it's a training ground. If you love your parents, it's easier for you to extend that love to other people. So it's a very important idea that we have to train our children that actually have to start loving other people. And we have to try to get to the point we can love them as we love ourselves. Which brings me to point number 2. Point number 2 is part of loving somebody is not always giving them a pat on the back and telling them when they're doing great. Part of loving somebody is also telling them when they're not doing so great, when they're doing things that are unbecoming, when they're going off their path, when they're not being who they are. And sometimes that's hard for you, and they'll be like, what? How dare you say that to me? What kind of friend are you? Well, you call yourself a friend? So what's the answer? The real answer is, yes, I'm a friend. What do you want me to do? You want me to look the other way when you're throwing your life away? You want me to look the other way when you have a character flaw? No, you want me to point it out to you. Really, a friend like that is really a diamond. And we should look for those types of friends as well, not just somebody that's there to compliment us when we do the right things. That fine balance. Especially in this time of year where we're holding right now during the Sephirah, the 49-day count all the way up to eventually the holiday of Shavuos, where we accept the Torah. But there was a point that Rabbi Akiva lost 24,000 students because Shalei Nahagu Kavod Zeh B'Zeh, they didn't honor one enough. And one of the ways of not honoring somebody is not being a true friend to them, by looking the other way at a certain sin that they do, or like we said, a character flaw that they may have, or something that's unbecoming of them, and not pointing certain things out to them, because that's a real friend. Rabbi Akiva himself stood for the maxim of Mada lach sanach lechavrach lesaveh. What is hateful to you, don't do to your friend. And who is your friend? Raje explains that your friend is to Hashem. Whatever is hateful to Hashem, or whatever is hateful to you, don't do it to Hashem. Love Hashem like you love yourself. So that's just a third point, but the first 2 points are the ones that I really wanted to will share with you. One, the idea you have an obligation to teach your children that they must love. If they don't love you, they're not going to love anybody else. The second one is a real love is the same way you would tell your child when they're doing something wrong, you have to tell your friend also when they're doing something wrong. And of course, there's a way to do this with cunning, and after you tell them, they even might be upset at you, but eventually they'll calm down. You go over to them with a loving gesture. Hey, I just want you to know I really care about you, and of course I'm doing all this for the best. So keep those 2 ideas in mind. To my daughter Fegi, your bas mitzvah today, V'ahavta l'recha kamocha, is certainly a wonderful mitzvah that you should start off with. It helps engender many, many relationships. People see that you care for them, they'll care back for you. Everybody have a wonderful Shabbos, and thank you for listening.